Hello there, and welcome everybody to All Knicked Up. It's January 25th, 2023. I almost said we are recording because that's what I say when I'm on my podcast, so I apologize. But yes, it's January 25th, 2023. And the Knicks don't have a game tonight, so we can actually come on at a decent time, talk to you guys about what's been going on with the team over the past 2 weeks. Since last week we didn't record, or sorry, again, see, there I go. We didn't come on live because of me. I had something I had to do. So we weren't available last week. Well, I wasn't. The other guys were. I wasn't. But we're here this week coming off a New York Knicks win. So let me bring the guys in real quick so we can break it down. Ty and Craig. What's up, gentlemen?
What's up? What's up?
What's up?
All right, so before we get into anything, someone had a milestone birthday, and it wasn't me, and it wasn't Craig. So, yeah, man, happy 50th.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
That is amazing, and I was able to come and celebrate with you.
Yes, sir. We had an awesome time. Everyone got together. People met each other for the first time, and it really just came together. It was very organic regarding how we all was just able to sit down and break bread. You know, meeting my wife for the first time, and the whole clan. You know, the whole Wu-Tang was out, so it was all good in the hood, basically. And we had a great time. Everybody loved you guys upon first meeting you, and we just enjoyed the camaraderie. And of course, turning 50 is a milestone, something I relish, and then at times I think it's kind of weird. It feels like I was just hanging out last week trying to get into a club, and now I'm in the 50 club, so it's really weird. But
you're in a club, yeah.
I'm in the club, bottle full of Bub too, or it might be a bottle full of blood pressure medicine. I don't know. Either way, we in the 50. We 50, as my boy says. So that's what's up.
Yes, it was very, very nice. Thank Brenda again, for your wife, for inviting me. And our one of our other former co-hosts, John, who used to be on the show in the beginning, he also came out with his girlfriend, so we all got to hang out again as well, and it was really cool to meet you. Meet your family. Yeah. Meet your mother and your friend.
One of my best friends was there, Joe and his wife. Shout out to them. My aunt was there, which is my mom's sister, Aunt Betty. You met my brother Tim.
Yes.
Yeah. You also met my niece and her boyfriend, and you met my little dude that I always talk about, JJ. My big nephew wasn't there. He wasn't able to make it, so we got to put that off for another barbecue when you can meet him. But pretty much the whole Wu-Tang outside of ODB was intact. You know, that's what it was.
Rest in peace, ODB. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Shimmy, shimmy, y'all. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy.
So, my man Joe is reaching out and wishing you a happy.
What's up, Joe?
A happy as well. So
many blessings, Joe. Thank you so much. One of the coolest people I've never met is Joe. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
One of the coolest people, and I'm looking so forward to meeting him one day. We correspond. The reveal that we talked about vinyl music and classic R&B because he's big into collecting vinyl. So we've had our little correspondence, and I shared some thoughts on some albums he needs to try, and he really did love them. So big shout out to Joe. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, as I told you and John in a private chat, he's going to be coming down soon. He wants to meet again, so I'll let you guys know. Hopefully, you guys
let me know. Definitely, I'm looking forward to that.
And come, eat with us and hang out with us for a bit.
Yeah, I'm definitely cool. Yeah,
we also been talking about coming to visit you too, Craig. Though, so don't feel left out. We've been talking about coming down to Philly to hang with you.
The brotherly love, they say.
Yes, we've been considering it, talking about it. So
I don't feel left out. You come when you come.
Yeah.
So Craig hasn't been on every show recently, as we told you. He started a new job, and it's very time consuming. And then, of course, he has a still has a newborn at home he's dealing with, an infant. So his time is precious to him, and so is his sleep.
Yes, sir.
So it's good to have you on, though. Good to have you here this week. I'm glad we're all back again this week. Again, last week was my fault. I had an Islander game I totally forgot about, and then I was like, "Oh crap, it's tonight." So, so I was like, oh, "Okay, well, this week, I mean, I could have set up for you guys to do the show. If you guys ever want to do a show without me, one of you wants to try and produce, I will give you all the information.
All right,
and y'all could do it without me too if I can't be around because."
Get that beep button, beep, beep, and the beep next, and the
Oh no, you'll be kicked off every platform.
and Julius beep. And Julius beep, beep.
Well, since we last, it's been a couple weeks, so the Knicks, of course, have continued with their up and down play.
Yes,
their win 5, lose 3, win 2, lose 4. Like they've been continuing this process. They did beat the Cavs last night, though. By 2 in a very close game. And I felt like, I mean, Julius Randle played excellent. I'm not even going to, rip him or anything. He played a really good game. They would not have won without him. I think he had 8 3-pointers. He was fantastic. So it was still in the closing moments. There were some plays he made that I was kind of like, dude, what are you doing? But I think that at this point we've just learned that that's what he is. And when you take if you're going to stick, if he's going to be here, you have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're at. But we'll get into a little bit more about that game because another player who has been finally starting to come around since he came off the injured list is Obi Toppin. And he played well again last night too. He's been impressive again. He's starting to look more comfortable, look like himself again. We could talk about usage, how he's used. We talk about it all the time, so I don't want to go into it too much. But the only thing I'm saying now is if he's going to play and this is the role they want him to play, then I want him to be successful in that role. So that's what I saw last night. But I'll pass it to you guys now. Anyone else stand out last night for you guys? Craig, I'll start with you.
Quickly.
Yeah.
I still wish they would trade him. But he's been playing he's been playing very well. I can't even hate on him. He's just playing like the way he is supposed to be playing. He's not a point guard.
Right.
He's a scorer, like you said. Let him go out there and do his thing. Defense has been pretty good, or better than good. That's about it. I mean, everyone basically did what they're supposed to do. I appreciate what OB's been able to do in 10 minutes. Like he's averaging basically like a point a minute. I know he's basically averaging like a point a minute for the last 2 games, essentially, right? So that's pretty good. So he's taking his opportunities, and I mean, he's doing what most people tell you should do. So other than that, that's it. I mean, everyone else is just kind of even last night.
There was another player who stood out for me, and Ty, I want to see if you pick up on it.
I'm gonna jump on it. iHeart. I thought he was the first guy I saw. Like I think I mentioned earlier, I said he looks like the guy the Knicks were signing for the first time last night. I mean, he gave the rim protection. He showed a little bit of his passing ability, from the top of the key. He just got at it. I think that was the thing. It didn't seem like he was out there overthinking. It was like, this is the game I'm going to play. He was just scrapping. He didn't look reluctant. He didn't look slow of foot. He didn't look like I said, there's something about when players come here, whatever they were doing great before they got here, they lose like the whole handbook by the time they get underneath this coach. And, needless to say, iHeart for the first time, we saw a pulse of the guy that when we heard he was one of the best rim protectors in last year, the prior year, he was one of the best rim protectors, and he's a very solid passer from with the cuts and all that stuff. But yeah, you can't pass when nobody's cutting. I mean, that's just keeping it a buck. I mean, if you got to have the movement. If there's no movement from the players and everyone's standing around like they bought a ticket and they're eating the popcorn, then what else can you expect? Then that pretty much anything that makes him special, he can't do. So last night we got a chance to see some of his game come about. It was really nice. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was. He was the other guy that I noticed too as well. Kind of looked like you said, looked like the guy they were signing in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I noticed too, though, with him was because he was kind of doing his thing a little bit on offense, he seemed to elevate his defense a little bit. He seemed to play a little bit better on the defensive end of the floor. And some guys are like that, right? Some guys, you know, if they're more known for being having an offensive mind, when they play well offensively, their defense tends to rise as well. So that was good to see. But really, was the bench last night. The bench was the key to that win. You know, no Knicks starter had a plus minus of a plus. Only RJ was even.
Oh wow!
And the rest of them were all minus.
Wow,
so,
that's very telling. That's very telling. That was definitely a bench then. The bench, definitely came on.
Yeah, so the bench was very, very instrumental last night in that win. And when the Knicks are good, that's usually how it is. Like when this team has been good, the bench has been able to come in and give them.
Absolutely.
So. Again, a little bit too close at the end. They had a 13-point lead. This team just can't hold leads no matter what. And that's the limitation, I think, of not having a true superstar to quiet those runs or hit big shots and just settle things down or get the crowd into it when you're home. I don't think they don't have that kind of a player yet. So good players, yes, but not a superstar player. They have all-star caliber, but not superstar caliber. So it was a good win. They've been, as I said, they've been up and down recently. They're only 3 games over 500. At one point, they were 5 games over 500. So they had come up. They stopped the 4-game losing streak. They lost 2 games to the Raptors and then to Washington and the Hawks. I want to talk about that Hawks game because this is something that I noticed. This was one of the first times I noticed this year that they kind of fell in and played the other team's style.
Yeah.
They were kind of playing at Atlanta's pace. And early on, they were kind of into it and into the game and into the rhythm. I thought that they were playing well. But, man, the second half, Atlanta just kind of, especially the fourth quarter, Atlanta just kind of put them away. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because if the Knicks want to play fast, it's tougher because of this. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So, Craig, you're probably, of the 3 of us, you've always been the bigger Tom Thibodeau fan or proponent, like of wanting him here. But this has always been an issue for him in his career of playing guys too many minutes. How are you at this point now? What do you think about that whole thing? His coaching style of playing, shortening the bench and playing all these minutes.
You're right. I mean, again, I still kind of am a Tibbs fan. I just hate what he does, and I hate that he shortened the rotation, and I hate that he's burning these guys out. Now, to the credit of RJ and Randall and Brunson, how many games did they miss between the 3 of them?
RJ missed because of the hand. But that's really it. Brunson missed 2.
Yeah. So what is that about between the 3 of them?
Julius hasn't missed any. So
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So, and he's like one of the league leaders in minutes, right? So
yeah,
they've been healthy and they've been able to get through it. Like if RJ didn't mess up his hand, that was a freak accident. He probably wouldn't have missed much. Brunson, that was probably a freak injury too. But I think that he's going to destroy these players by the time the playoffs come around. It's going to be if they make the playoffs or the play and whatever, it's going to be the same thing that happened when they played Atlanta 2 years ago, right? Either one or 2 things are going to happen. Someone's not going to show up the way they show up in the in the regular season, or they're going to have dead legs like Rose had dead legs in that series. He's killing these guys, and it's very frustrating to watch. There should be no reason why you're playing 9 guys when you have, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but there should be no reason why Cam isn't playing, right? There should be no reason why Fournier is getting these sparing minutes. He's killing them. He's destroying these players. And I think I read a poll. It was from the Ringer or something like that, where they said most of the players, polled, said Tibbs is the second player, the second coach, the second most rated coach they wouldn't want to play for.
Oh, wow.
I'll try to find it and I'll share it to you.
Yeah, I read it. I read it too.
Yeah, it's bad. And I don't even care about what other players think. I'm just saying based off the eye test, right? These guys cannot play 45, 46 minutes a night. You just, and it should be no reason why Julius is playing 44 minutes when you have Toppin on the bench playing 12, 11.
Yeah, that's the bigger thing for me, the discrepancy that, I mean, you have a guy, again, he was picked 8th overall. So, I mean, what are you saying about him?
Be that stubborn. I'm sorry. Like,
right.
that's getting to the point where it's getting old, man. It's getting old. He has to
And
stop.
what is the coach saying about him then? Like, if he doesn't feel comfortable playing him more than 10 minutes a night, even when he's playing well, like been playing really well lately, but he's still not getting that time. So we've talked about this in the past, and Ty, I'll turn this over to you. What about, again, playing him and Randall together? What do you?
I mean, the thing is when Mitch has not been in the game recently, I mean, you know, he's not in the game. So if you can't replicate what Mitch has done over the time, if you're saying that's the anchor of your defense, and clearly he's not in there. Ihart is not that guy either, you know, to pick up Mitch's role. And, you know, we love Jericho Sims, but Jericho's clearly not Mitch. So I know my favorite word over the last couple of years is the word pivot. You would think there would be a pivot at some point where you're saying, okay, maybe I don't trust Obi at the 5, but he has come out and said that he would play Julius at the 5. He's willing to give him minutes at the 5. Julius, as we've seen, can be a very good rebounder. You know, he had 19 in one of the last games. So it's not like he cannot board. He can give you the boarding. Obviously, the whole thing is about this goofy theory about rim protection. You know, we're the only team that talks that much about rim protection. I've never heard any team, you know, get on about rim protection as much as this guy. And meanwhile, none of our guys are like what Mitch is averaging, maybe 2 blocks a game. So how much rim protection is going on when you see a guy like Claxton, who is playing in Brooklyn, who clearly is out there to play defense and block shots. I mean, granted it's Brooklyn, but if you watch how that guy plays, sometimes I'm like, that should be Mitchell Robinson on the Knicks, because I think that guy's averaging almost 3 blocks a game. For all the rim protection, we don't have guys leading in blocks. That makes, you know, being at the top of the best blocker, and there's no Dikembe on this team. And Mitch should be Dikembe, given how the defensive philosophy is to drive them to the rim and clog the lane and block shots. Yet we don't have a guy blocking shots at a rate that would make him DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year. We don't have a candidate like that in the center, which is very baffling when you think about it, when you have a defensive coach who all he talks about is defense. But you don't have one candidate on this team that, especially Mitch, that should be Defensive Player of the Year candidate, given how you've orchestrated the defense supposedly around your center. That's the BS that we're dealing with. So it would behoove me to say, why not just sit there and play Randall at the 5, Obi at the 4, get out and run more. You know, now that you know you don't have a guy at the center, now you got to combat what you lost by making the team powerful in another area, which is pivot and start a small ball lineup and see if you can run these guys off the court. And then you could always sub in height. See, this is the thing I don't get about this coach. You could always substitute in the height. That has nothing to do. You have a dynamic player you picked at 8. And we have seen only the glimpse of a few dunks. He's won a dunk. I tell you, he's what, Kenny Skywalker? You know, Kenny Obi Walker. I don't know what he is. You know, all we're getting is this guy who dunks. We get a dunker. His father's name is Dunker Delight, a.k.a. Dunker Delight. We're getting a Dunker Delight too. That's all we're seeing from Obi, when it's clear he's able to take guys off the dribble when need be. But when you watch the schematics of how they play him, they just sit him in the corner. He automatically goes to the corner, and he's like, I'm going to wait for the 3-point attempts. Who underutilizes a player to that magnitude? When like I said, it would be great if you put him at a 4. You know, now he stretches out. Julius can stretch out to 5. Obi can give some range and then get speed enough to take somebody off the dribble at the 4. Your whole team changes. The lanes open up if you put Obi in at the 4. The spacing changes dramatically. So a guy going downhill like Brunson, a guy going downhill like RJ, a guy going downhill like Julius. I mean, but Julius is playing about either way. Now there's no shot blocker in there because you're pulling them all out the paint. Now you got to count the perimeter more. But this guy, it's like if the guy's not 7 feet tall, he does not want him nowhere on the floor. So there's got to be one 7-footer always on the floor in his theory. And it can never be, and I always tell you, I always say Kanye did his thing to George Bush. I told you, this is, I don't like athletes. He doesn't like anything that's athletic. You can go back and look at the history. His most athletic player was D Rose.
Yeah.
After that, he likes lumbering, slower foot, lethargic, methodical players who are less athletic. I don't know if he gets shot when he sees athletes, he gets a rash. I have no idea. But that dude will not play anyone who's athletic. Obi goes anywhere else. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but he's going to be tipping at the all-star level with a point guard that's willing to say, let's run something to get this guy going and see what he can do. But we'll never see that 4 or 5 combo of Julius and Obi.
Yeah, my thought process is, like you said, you're not going to get the defense without Mitch there. Whether he's blocking shots or not, he's still a presence and guys fear him. Yep. So you're not going to get that. So if you're losing something on defense, why wouldn't you try and combat that with offense and trying to score more than the other team by playing those two guys together? Now, like you said, I like Sims and Hartenstein. He was great last night. He's being misused, but that's another topic for another time. So the logic states that you try, and if you don't have something, you try and do something that you play to your strengths, and you try and win that way.
Yep.
And that's one thing that I wish we would see. I still do not understand the reluctance. I think inside with both him and Randall, teams would have to worry about both of them, not only one of them. Right now, no one's scared of Hartenstein. No one's scared of Sims. So they're not threats on offense. They're not threat. Maybe for lobs, but that's another question. Another thing we're going to talk about going forward. But it's a real. It boggles my mind why they're not doing that. While he's not doing that, but again, this is who this coach is. Like you said, he doesn't do what we think is logical.
Apparently, what the whole league thinks is logical.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Like this is an offensive league now, right? Like the rules are catered to scoring. Like that's what the rules are. So I don't know, but
you got to think that like teams lick their chops because we've seen the results of teams licking their chops. The Knicks are on the schedule, and the first thing they know that they're not going to play any defense on threes. They know that they're going to give up the leads, and they already know and then they know we can't shoot threes. So the gig is up. Everybody in the league knows how to play and beat the Knicks, and now that they're learning how to blitz Julius and make him get nervous. It's even Brunson's been exposed. We're seeing a lot of exposure right now on the Knicks. No matter how good they were playing, we're seeing teams now say, okay, second time around, watch me take away all that stuff you tried on us the last time, and you don't have a counter for it. That's what we're starting to see. Shout out to Randall. He had a Herculean game last night. But, man, you needed all that. You need a all-time performance. You need 8 3-pointers to beat the Cavs, who really weren't cooking last night. They were okay last night. They weren't a cooking team, but it's like look what you have to do to beat that team. It's something's just wrong. And I would say I'm jumping less off the players and more on the coach now because clearly he does not know. I know he knows basketball. He's got 2 Coach of the Year awards, but that still don't mean that you understand the nuances of the game that need to have changed, and you need to once again pivot and try something different. You don't get that.
Yeah, he's rigid, right? He's very stuck in his ways. He doesn't like changing. He's the guy who says, "No, we're gonna make it work my way because that's what works for me."
Yeah,
and I get that, but this whole I don't know his whole philosophy. Whether it's coaching on the floor or with his rotation, I understand lessening minutes, but on certain games where you can see certain guys don't have it, why you have a deep bench? You're paying Rose and Fournier, how much money combined?
18 and 19 million.
Like 31 million or something like that.
Yeah,
They're paying them 30 something million combined.
And it's like, it goes back to what I said about iHeart. I'm not expecting him to come in and kill it. I mean, he's not that kind of player. He's a bench player. He's a role player. But, he was playing before he got here the role he can play great, that he was great at. It's like when these guys come here, like, I know Ev's been knocked around. People, Ev's trash. Ev, blah, blah, blah. Why is he got trash when he got here? Not that he had a great stay in Boston. But I'm just saying, what he was very good at doing, he's never played that role here. No. He's never played that role. He's been waiting around for someone to toss him the ball and none of the players the Knicks have great vision. So he's not playing off the ball. And plus, he should be playing more point guard or combo guard than sitting there waiting in a corner for a catch. And he's not a catch and shoot player. He's never been – he can make me a bucket, but he's always worked well with movement. Yep. Moving around the perimeter, coming off of curls. That's him. When we watched that first game, he debuted in the Garden against Boston 2 years ago, where he had that epic game. What people thought he lost himself? Like he can't do that again? Like he's washed. He's not washed. He killed Boston. He can't play in this system that doesn't allow a player to play to their strengths. Like it's like Tom seems like he's one of those guys that he has one guy he knows what he's going to get out of, and he's going to ride that guy. He doesn't care when nothing else is going to work. He's like, I can depend on Julius. He's did it with D. Rose. He ran him into the ground. Jimmy Butler, to the point that Minnesota got screwed up, and he's doing it with Julius now. That's what I'm saying. The pattern is, do you dislike Do you dislike Jimmy Butler? No. Do you dislike Derrick Rose? No. But it's how they're being utilized by this coach who's like, I got this one horse that I'm going to ride like Seabiscuit until he dies. And I don't care what else doesn't work. I know he will work. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing this whole dynamic unfold even in New York, where he's not willing to adapt and add any other pieces into the fray in order to get us, more of a better collective team effort.
Yeah, one of the guys who it's clearly starting to be noticeable about that the minutes are taking a toll to me is Jalen Brunson.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm not saying that he's not playing well. He's still playing okay. But you can see whether it's the ankle injury or just the accumulation of having this new role where he's playing many more minutes than he's ever played before in his career is starting to have an impact. So, Craig, I'll go to you since you have that connection with Jalen, of course. What have you noticed? Just, I guess, to this point, we'll just talk about to this point. What have you learned about Jalen Brunson that you didn't know before? I'll start with that.
That he probably can't handle the load that is being bestowed upon him by Tibbs. Like we saw him doing in the playoffs a little bit when Luka wasn't in Dallas, but it's kind of. I would say that was different because it was new, right? But now you're halfway through a season almost. And it's not new anymore. Like he's like, I would say he's probably hitting his rookie wall now, right? I don't know. That's a good. I don't know. That's a good.
That's a good one.
But he might be hitting it now but it might not even be him. It's just the way that Tibbs may be using him, right? He's using him like he's playing a lot of minutes. He has to carry I'm sorry, I don't care what anyone says. Julius doesn't carry the offense. It's Brunson, right? The dude averaged like 30 over like a 5-game stretch for the most part, right? So it's him. And what I'm starting to notice is he probably right now has to get used to being the guy. And being the guy means, especially under Tibbs, is you're going to play a lot of minutes. And the thing that frustrates me about Tibbs is that he'll keep these guys in when they're up 20 points. On the rare occasion they're winning and they're winning the game end to end, right? They'll still be out there. Why? This is why Derrick Rose's career is essentially over because of you in that playoff series against the Sixers. And the fact that he keeps doing this is mind-boggling to me. If he gets fired or if they keep him till his contract is over, this will probably be his last coaching job ever.
Absolutely.
And I mean that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
He'll probably never coach an NBA game again.
As a head coach, yeah.
Like who? And he's probably so stubborn. He probably wouldn't take a defensive coordinator position or whatever defensive coach or associate coach position. He's horrible. It's getting to the point now where like it's the shtick is it's up, man. It's over. Like no one.
Mm-hmm.
These players clearly play hard for him. I'll give him that. They go out there, they play their arses off for him, but that's probably it. Like there's nothing else he can do.
I think it's also I want to piggyback a little bit off of when you say about players play for him. It's like I always get with Emmanuel Quickly. He'll come out on the interview and he goes, "Oh, Tom, he's like, can this arm do it? Tom Thibodeau, oh, the great coach. He's our plan." And it sounds like it's so like read off of a paper. Like I got to kiss his butt because he's not going to give me no minutes. That's the kind of thing I'm getting about that. He has too much endorsement in the front office that these guys will never be able. And we're seeing it. Cam probably is suffering through that. Ev has suffered through opening his mouth. These guys come out and they're very vocal about what they see wrong, and they will pay the price because they won't get any minutes. If we're believing even some of the rumors with Cam, you have a discrepancy with the coach. I mean, these flare-ups happen all the time. Does that get you banished? Did Obi say something? Is that why he's getting 8 minutes? I mean, we don't know because the temperamental attitude of this coach, he's very sensitive about even when reporters dare question his philosophy on stuff. Oh, the arrogance that comes out. Oh, you didn't watch the tape like I watched it. Look, I always tell us about New York fans. We watching tape and we watching your paycheck. I don't care what New York fan you are, whatever sport you're watching the tape and the paycheck because we all know how much you make and we know how much you screwed up. That's just what it is. What do you think that the reporters or something? Now you insult the reporters like they could never know what you know, and that is asinine because you watch the sport long enough, you can know a lot of stuff about the sport. You might not be able to have a job in the NBA, but that doesn't mean you can't do the job in the NBA or you don't have the acumen to understand the game. I've been watching this game as long as Tom has, damn near. That doesn't mean that he's got a job in the NBA that I don't have. But that doesn't mean that I'm sitting here, I'm intimidated because you say, oh, you didn't see this guy. Dude, you're losing. The fact that you're watching the tape and still losing makes you a terrible coach because you're not even pivoting on the material you're watching. That's the craziest thing. He has not made no adjustments after watching all the film on these guys. That's the whole thing. Like, are you that dense? But it's because I think he has, once again, I'm going back to Leon and I'm going back to, the fact that the front office connection with Tibbs is allowing him too much of this, of this swinging is what I'm going to call it. He's running around swinging in the locker room, butt naked. And like, oh, this is my ship. I don't care what. Not that I wanted that visual, but you get what I'm saying. I don't see a penguin swinging. But needless to say, I'm just saying he's walking around swinging in the locker room, butt naked. Like, well, you're not going to tell me what to do with my team. But meanwhile, what you're presenting out there as a product is absolutely terrible. He's ran. I mean, I literally think I've been saying it for a minute because I watched how great Jalen was playing. And I've always been saying about how Jalen's fallen a lot of times on the floor. I'm like, that's going to catch up with him. Then I'm watching the minutes not going down. I'm like, that's going to catch up with him. And now when we're watching his performance on the floor, we're looking like he looks like a washed player. He looks like he played 82 games now. That's the thing. He looks like an 82-game player. Like he's went through the whole season and he's like, I'll just be glad when this is over because we're seeing the lack of focus at the free throw line. When your mind is fatigued, that's when you run into real trouble. Your body can be fatigued, but mental fatigue is the hardest thing to kind of recoup from. It's like mental stress. You'd rather take physical stress than mental stress because to get out of those kind of doldrums is very hard. So we're watching Jalen Brunson go, well, damn, I want to give everything right now, but I don't got it. You can look at when he's on the floor, that's why his points are down. And then teams are sitting athletic dudes against him. Guys that are got limbs, they're going, he's tired. He can't get past me now. So now the only thing I had to do is now use my length and put an athletic person on him, and he's turning the ball over. The kind of turnovers he was not doing before, he's doing them now. He's tired.
Yeah, I mean the thing that bothers me most with him is the drop in assists. And it's not that, you can say, well, guys just aren't making shots off of what he's doing. And I guess that's a fair argument.
To a degree.
But if you're watching the game,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I've said this in the past, his sole focus seems to score all the time. Like I don't even look at him anymore and say, well, he's trying to set somebody up or he's trying to create offense for somebody outside of himself. And I understand his main what he is more of a scorer. I get that. I understand that part. But when you have the ball as much as he does, you're responsible for getting other guys shots. And I mean, it could be like we talk about the function of the offense. It could just be that. It could be that because we have RJ and we have Randall and they're both good with the ball in their hands as well, that he doesn't have the opportunity to say, like, maybe if he's on a team where he's surrounded by a bunch of really good shooters where he's driving and kicking and to open shooters. Like it could be a function of that, of the structure of the team. But I mean, the stats don't lie. He was averaging almost 7 assists in the beginning of the season. And then this month he's only averaging 5. So that's 2 less. Now, things haven't changed that much to the point where you're like, the structure of the team hasn't changed to the point where you're like, well, that explains it. So it's very, very alarming to me. And the other thing, the thing about him also with his passing is that, I thought, and I think everyone thought when he came here, that would kind of unlock more pick and roll situations because of the way, not only because like OB is a good finisher or other guys can finish, but because he's such a good mid-range shooter, he's a threat at all times. So you can't sag off of him. You can't you can't leave him when the pick is and the guy's rolling or popping, you have to stick with him. So then that guy gets a one-on-one or it's a clear path to the basket, or it's bringing in the defense so that guy's open. So I thought that would be the case here, and sometimes it is, but now I'm learning he's really not that good a passer. And that to me, especially when you're looking for a guy to throw lobs to Obi and to Mitch when he's in the game and to Sims, like that's a problem. I think their best guy with the lob is, Quickly is good throwing lobs, and RJ really. I think they're the two best
They are
at throwing the lob, right?
I think RJ's the top. Are we now? Are we reaching the danger zone? Is that song saying? Are we in the danger zone of maybe saying the Knicks don't got a point guard still?
Mm-mm.
You don't want to go that far?
No, I think no. I mean, they don't have a traditional point guard. I think we could say that. They don't have a guy who, like when we were younger growing up, Ty, when the game used to be played, like they don't have a Stockton or they don't have a Jason Kidd, right? They don't have a guy who's so good at passing that he just makes the game easier for everybody else. They don't have that guy.
Yeah.
But they do have, I think he's not a vocal floor leader, but he's a floor leader. He leads by example. He wants big shots. Like he does that kind of stuff that a lead guard would do. I won't call him a point guard, but maybe just a lead guard. Maybe that's the best way to put it. So I wouldn't say no, because I do feel they are much better with him. And I do feel that he does play technically the point guard position. Like he handles usually makes smart decisions. They're usually for himself, but he usually makes smart decisions. So I wouldn't go that far, but we don't have a point guard the kind of point guard I like. I could be selfish and say we don't have the kind of point guard that I like. I like a guy who's more of a pass first, looks to get others involved first, and then if he needs to take over at the end, he has the ability to do that. Like that's the kind of elite point guard I like. So. It's a preference thing.
It is a preference for me too.
Yeah.
I grew up a Magic Johnson fan, so don't ask me about a point guard. I mean, that's who I grew up on.
Kind of hard.
Yeah, it's like watching that, and then maybe we have a Chris Paul that's similar to Magic, picking his spots. I like Jalen. It's no disrespect to Jalen. I do like his game. I do like him. I think he fits the mold of being here in New York. I do question whether or not his style of play, now it could be the system that he plays in, we'll give him that nod, I don't know if he elevates this team. And what I mean by that is we're seeing a lot of guys eat off of their isolation plays. You know, that's the one thing that we're looking at now. He's a great isolation player, like a one-on-one for being as small and miniature as he is. That dude is a great isolation player. He's better than probably Randall at isolation, or maybe even RJ. He can get his own bucket, and he's unstoppable when he gets into. He's got a lot of counter moves, a lot of interactions. A lot of moves in his package, I should say. But needless to say, I don't know if he's going to elevate this team as constructed. Maybe he does need the shooters. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think he needs?
He definitely needs shooters. I mean, it's evident, but RJ isn't a shooter, right?
Mm-mm.
Grimes is a good shooter, but he's been a little inconsistent, right? Randall, I'm not even going there. Quickly shoots.
I mean, Randall might be the best 3-point shooter we got, which is a very scary thing.
I get it, but there's times where I can't think of what game it was. We start off like 1 for 8, and I'm like, dude, just stop.
Yeah, he doesn't know when to stop. You're right.
Yeah,
that's true.
Quickly, I mean, he's from 30 feet away all the time, and I can't think. I mean, Fournier, right? But he's not playing. So, who else do you have on the team? He needs shooters.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that's
because he can drive the basket. He can get to the basket and draw defenses to him. But who are you passing to that you know is going to hit open shot? Like okay, I know that's going in, right? The Knicks don't have that right now.
No, they don't.
No, well, that's the other. That's why I say too, though. Sometimes when he's driving and his head is down, even if a guy is open, you can't see him.
Yeah,
like you're not looking for that, and then he'll pick his head up at the end when the defense stops him or whatever. But by that time, you've allowed everyone to rotate. They're with their guys. They're with their open man. The open man, they cover up by that point, so you're not getting the high effective shot. And I see that's one thing that. I mean, Julius is the same way. The only guy who does it, and I always talk about him because I think he's just better than we've seen. The only guy who really can do that is RJ. Yeah, he turns it over sometimes. He makes some bad decisions, holds onto the ball. But if the shooter's there, while he will pass the ball before he gets where he's trying to go, and that's not what Randall or Brunson do.
No. I agree.
They get there and they're like, crap, they stopped me. Okay, now I have to pass the ball because there's no other option.
Yeah, it's like they're bailed out of they have to bail out by passing as opposed to dribbling with an intent to, like, what your intent is. Is like if that guy comes, and that's a big IQ issue with guys. If that guy comes, if he hedges, my man is open over there. So I know immediately as soon as I see that action unfolding, that's what's going to happen over here. That guy's getting the ball. Like my pushback on the shooter issue, and granted, if you're spacing the floor and that's what your philosophy is, that's fine. But we've seen a team like Atlanta. Atlanta, we've always did the Trae Young comparison. Like, would you trade him for Trae Young? You watch Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't have snipers like that. They have what's it, Bojan, whatever his name is. They have their Bogey, whatever his name is. I think it's Bogey.
Yes.
They don't have a bunch of snipers. But what Trae ends up finding a good pocket, a pass to those guys that either finish. Like the kind of guys that the Knicks have, they should be finishing at the rim. Like, I'm going in. The action should come as soon as the double comes. I'm shoveling a pass off to this dude because he's going to finish for a dunk. We don't see none of that action. We don't see the lob passes, like you said. If you're coming out, I'm going to send it high to Mitch, and he's going to slam down on your head. We don't see any of that because maybe, like you're saying, he's wired to score, wired to keep his head down. He knows that he's going to go in and do his little whatever moves he does, and he's going to get open, and he's probably going to get a high percentage shot playing the way he does. But this team needs so much more than just one player who can get his shot at a high efficient rate. Like, you got to be able to pass this because everybody's got to eat. Some guys are sitting out there watching. They're not eating anything at all. I mean, a guy like Obi, I look at him, and there should be so many more dunks from Obi Toppin. From as soon as guys penetrate, he should be heading towards the rim. because somebody's going to get Julius is going to get double, RJ is going to get double, and Brunson's going to get double. Their assist level should, at least for Brunson, he should always average 8 assists on the night. I don't think he should everywhere be nowhere near 5. 5 is crazy. Julius has had 8. Think about that, Julius Randle. I mean, I know we don't like Julius like that, but Julius has been balling. Like his numbers is ridiculous, and he's found some guys. And I've been shocked. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm like campaigning for Julius. He's done some passes. I'm like, well, damn, I didn't know he could even make that pass. I'm saying this is gonna be a turnover, you would think, but meanwhile, he's made some really nice passes. Like, and he's thought out, when that guy comes, I'm throwing the ball to so and so. I just think Brunson, maybe because of his height, he's got to, just burrow in and go, and he's got to commit to scoring, because what else is he going to do when the trees collapse? Like, I think that's another thing, because you got to be able to see.
Right.
You can't pass what you can't see.
Right. Well, that's why I said keep your head up,
mm-hmm.
and you'll be able to see, okay, that guy's coming from here. That means someone should be open. His man should be open. So
mm-hmm.
either that player who's ever the open guy either has to fade a little bit to give him a passing lane,
mm-hmm.
or just pop out completely so he can get a jump shot. But that has been my biggest critique of him. Don't get me wrong, he's been everything they could have hoped for. I can't even tell you how much the difference he's made to this team. He's won games for them this year by himself.
Absolutely.
So I can't, I'm not going to sit here and say he's been a bad signing or that he's a bad player. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
I just wish he was a little bit more creative, I guess, with how he thinks, his processing of how he thinks the game. But I mean, they knew what they were getting, because this is who he's always been, even in college. This is the player he was. So I'm not surprised that this is him, but I guess I expect a little more. You grow a little in the NBA, and you maybe expect a little bit more, but that's what we have so far. And again, don't dislike him. I'm glad he's here. He's a clear upgrade over what we had before.
Absolutely.
But that's just kind of the bad for him right now. And again, maybe also too, right now, it's just all like we talked about before, the minutes he's played and the physical beating he's taken, it is impacting him a little bit.
Yeah,
so let's move.
He gets beat up a lot.
Huh?
He gets beat up a lot. He's
yeah.
He's a player, so he probably was getting the mellow treatment a little bit with respect to. I mean,
that's a whole other. The officiating I could talk about in all sports. We could do several shows on it across the board, because it's just bad. Bad. So let's have a little fun now and talk about it's trade season's coming up. So there's rumors out there, of course. We hear things all the time. So
Craig's favorite spot.
Yes. So four Knicks right now are considered to be their most guys who possibly will be traded.
Mm-hmm.
Cam obviously is the most obvious one, Cam Reddish. And recently we heard that he might be in a deal, or there might be a deal being formulated with him as the main guy going to Milwaukee for Grayson Allen. So we've talked about this a little bit in the chat. So I'll just put it out there. Craig, what do you think about that deal? Would you be for that deal?
I would do it in a heartbeat. However, I don't understand why Milwaukee would do that unless they don't want to pay Grayson Allen, because he's due to get paid next year, right?
Yes,
They would save them like 17, some crazy amount for their cap. But I mean, I guess he helps them. Cam would help them athletically, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus, you're giving up Grayson Allen, a defender, a shooter, a smart player, has a reputation of
rugged,
but whatever, I don't care.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, so it's just like I wouldn't even think twice about it. I mean, I would assume, like Ty always says, it'll be a bigger package. Probably have to send Derrick Rose over there, probably a first round pick or something like that. But I wouldn't even think twice about it. I would do it in a heartbeat, because you can automatically slide him in at your 2. Like, I'm sorry, Grimes can go to the bench. I love Grimes, but I would start him right away. But Tibbs won't, because Tibbs.
What if you tweaked it? Ty, I'll turn this to you. What if you tweaked that deal, and instead of Cam for Allen, what about Quickly for Allen?
Look, I was just probably asked when you gassed up the car. I mean, it's really weird with me, Emmanuel Quickly, and I don't know. There's some players, and I mean, I hear so much fanfare about the kid, and he looked like he's a good kid. He's God fearing. He plays with a lot of tenacity, but his game, and it just annoys me for some reason.
Yeah.
When he does that thing when he flicks his hair and he does that thing, and I'm like, all right, can you cut him? And I mean, maybe I'm sorry. Look,
Fish.
yeah, I'm like, it's just I get annoyed quickly. I mean, I'll tell anybody I'm a little petty. I'm probably petty a lot more than anybody. I'm real petty. So it's just something about when I keep hearing about, oh, he's playing great, and I'm looking like, dude, you're shooting 42%. That annoys me, because I'm like, you're getting all these attempts, and I'm expecting an efficiency bump from this kid. I mean, I don't like the jerking up the shots. Even though he's makes some of those shots, it's just maddening to watch. For me, I'm like, why can't you just lay up the shot? Why it's got to be some off balance, falling away? You kicked out your leg, you pull up a kickstand on the bike. I mean, nobody wants to see all that stuff on the floor. I just want a regular player who comes in and you're wired to go score, and you don't got all this herky jerky stuff going on. Now, when you're talking about Grayson Allen, people don't like him. But see, the reason why people don't like him is the reason I would want him on the Knicks. I want somebody willing to, not be Jay-Z, but really trip a referee and a player. I really want to see a guy who plays with an edge in the Garden that, like, I don't know what to expect. Are we getting American Psycho today, or are we going to get a guy who's going to, be a quiet boy? That unknown about him, and he can ball, is something I want in the Garden. We need a dirty player. Any way I can spell it out, I want a dirty player. I don't want people that are like hugging people. I want him to get at least 1 2x4 out of his car like Latrell Sprewell. Even if he's not going to swing anybody, just the fact he took it out of his car and he brought it into the locker and was like, hey, you see Woody over here? That's all I want from a player. I want someone with a little bit of an edge to play in the Garden. Grayson Allen is probably a little bit crazy, and he can ball, and I'm looking at, I would throw Quickly. Are you going to pay Emmanuel Quickly a lot of money?
I'm
looking at this.
I would not pay him.
And I'm like,
no.
Convince me why you paid that guy.
I wouldn't.
Like, you'll hear guys that say, oh, I'll let Obi go, but you got to keep Emmanuel Quickly. And I'm like, why? You can draft that player anytime. You can draft any player like him anytime. And I'm not trying to be smudge the kid or whatever. You can always go find an Emmanuel Quickly. Are you going to find a 6'9", dunk master who can get anywhere on the floor and fly down the floor like Obi? No. You're not going to replicate the athleticism of Obi Toppin. Emmanuel Quickly, he was the 25th pick for a reason, because that means you had 24 guys ahead of him, and you can go in this draft and get somebody who's 24 in the 24th spot. You see guys like him all the time. It's not like he has a specialty where you go, if we can't afford to lose that. So I would be, what is it? Laverne and Shirley, wasn't that filmed in Milwaukee? Oh, him, Squiggy, and Quickly can all go. Lenny Squiggly, whoever, Quickly, they can go. They'd be his brown brother from Milwaukee. They can go hang out together and give me Grayson Allen in a heartbeat. I want a sniper. I want consistency, and I want toughness. I don't want to see this hair flick thing, and you look like you're having you're spazzing out, and then you're throwing up these whack shots.
Let's not use that ableist terminology.
That's a bad word. I'm sorry. You're acting erratic.
There you go.
Your erratic behavior on the court that makes me question whether or not you're stable. That's all I'm trying to say.
I wouldn't think twice about it.
Well, I don't.
If willing to do that,
I would ship him anywhere. There's a lot of teams supposedly interested in him. I'd get him out of here. I don't find anything amazing about to keep him, especially if you can get a pick out of him. If you can get a first pick, If you get a first round for Emmanuel quickly, you send him out tomorrow.
I mean, I think it depends really on where he's going and what the team really needs.
Mm-hmm.
I made that switch from Cam to quickly because I kind of agree. Like, what the hell is Cam going to do in Milwaukee that he hasn't done that differently than here or Atlanta or
yeah.
Like, there's nothing to me. He's not going to go there and make an impact. And Allen is a starter for them, so they're a championship contender. Like, they have Giannis, so they're always a championship contender in my eyes. So, what is he going to offer them? But when they're losing something, not having Allen, quickly though can score. He could go there. He's a good secondary ball handler.
He can defend also. He plays solid defense.
So he's the guy that I just figured, well, he's not even listed as one of the 4 guys who could be dealt, but he just was a guy that came into my head. Another guy who is older, but they probably could use is Derrick Rose.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. And Ty, we've talked about Derrick Rose going to Milwaukee before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would work for like Grayson Allen, but there's been talk about him possibly going back to Chicago in some kind of a deal surrounding either DeRozan, which was a new one, which I did not know about. I didn't know DeRozan was available, but also Zach LaVine, who is Craig's favorite player.
So we don't like the light skin film.
Light skin.
We talked about this on the last show, Craig. You weren't here for the last one, but we kind of talked about LaVine on the last show. Again, 5 years ago, he was definitely
pulling the heartbeat.
You don't question it. But now with the knee problems, and I don't know, man. I'm past the point where getting Zach LaVine would excite me. Again, he's another ball dominant guard. If you get him, are you taking the ball out of Julius's hands? You're taking it out of Brunson's hands? You're taking it out of RJ's hands? I mean, what are you doing? Like, you're diminishing the rest of the talent on the team by getting somebody like him. So
the team is missing. And I'm not saying he's not like super dynamic like he was 5 years ago, but at this point, the team is missing a player you can give the ball to, and there's a good chance he can get you a shot fairly easily. Like, you're missing talent on this team, and I mean, it's hard for me to really articulate it the way I want to, but like,
he can get a bucket. He can get a bucket whenever he wants to. That's
something missing that this team doesn't have, and the front office seem to be missing that. They're going back to the point where they were 2 years ago, where they're like, oh, we're fine where we are, and we'll nip and tuck and make these little tweaks here and there. But you didn't get Mitchell, and I'm not blaming them for not getting Mitchell. That's not their fault, right? So what else? And again, I understand that DeRozan, LaVine makes a lot of money, so that's the part that's going to hurt more. So
they just extended him.
So that would hurt me more than what he can't do now, what he was doing 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. The money outweighs the other stuff for me. But what else is there for you to do? You're missing that piece. Like, you can't tank now. You've already won too many games, in my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. So what else can you do? You can't keep having these little nip and tuck moves that keep us steady or keep us even. What are you doing?
Well, I think the question is too. I often go back to the same question. What is the front office? How do they evaluate Julius Randle? Like, this is.
Do you really need to ask that question?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, when we're looking at like Craig talking about LaVine, it's like, do they feel they need a LaVine because they got a Julius Randle? Meaning, they may view Julius the same way you view LaVine, saying, we got a bucket getter. But we got a guy, like, we got our definitive one.
But he's not a bucket getter.
They've got their one, and that everybody else they're building, because clearly they're building around Julius still, which is just.
No, I don't agree with that, Craig. I think he is a bucket getter.
He's not a bucket getter.
Julius?
Yeah.
Julius can get a bucket. I think he's a bucket getter.
He's not a bucket getter in the sense where he won't frustrating you getting that bucket.
It's not smooth.
He frustrates himself getting the bucket.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not anything where it's not anything where you're like, okay, like I know this move from Julius is going to lead to 2 points or 3 points.
No, it's helter skelter with him,
And that's what frustrates me. And that's probably frustrates every fan in the league. Every Knicks fan.
And bully ball, and that's what it is with him. Yeah, that's
I have to watch him take another step back 3. I'm gonna blow my brains out. It is by far the worst shot in NBA history. Only certain players.
It is a bad. Well, I don't know. I gotta clap back that trying to be Tim Duncan shot he does.
What?
He kisses it off the glass. He attempts to kiss it off the glass. I'm like, there's 2 guys I've seen do that very well. Duncan clearly and Scottie Pippen are the only 2 guys I saw when playing where they mastered that kiss off the glass shot. And I'm like, it used to be beautiful to watch, but when he started doing that, I'm like,
he's frustrated. He's
just drive the ball, dog. Don't. You too big to be trying to be skilled. That's just really what I'm gonna get. You're too big to try to be a finesse player.
That's what it is.
You just need to drive, get the contact, the and one, finish. Get your 3-pointers that way.
It's his fault. Definitely Fizdale's fault.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't see them thinking that. I think they think they have a piece in Julius, and I don't know if they would think. And then I think they're sold on Brunson. Like I think the Knicks are looking at. They have 2 of the 3 players they need. I think RJ's the question mark that they're waiting because, albeit he's having a great stretch, he becomes the afterthought. Like most people find him expendable, it seems sometimes. When you're talking about those, like I think they say in the front office, I'm not saying us, I'm saying that I think they see it opposite. I see RJ as the guy you keep, and the other 2 guys are maybe the guys you got to wonder about. Because he's young and we don't know what his ceiling is yet. We got a little glimpse of Brunson's ceiling. We know Julius is all he is. He can only become more efficient. That's all he can ever become. I think they see it opposite. We see RJ and we go build around RJ. They say, we don't know if RJ should be here to build around these 2 guys. And I think that becomes the loose. You got to be very careful because I think they may be looking to replace RJ as opposed to replacing Randall. And I think that's the thing. Like Levine would come in, he's going to take RJ's job if you think about it, because he can't. What role is he going to play? He has to play. He has to play 2 guard. He can't do any. He's not going to be the point guard. Brunson's the point guard.
You could probably play him and RJ
together.
But I'm saying you could play like one as shooting guard, one as small forward, and get away with it that way. I think that's probably the way they would go about it. But again, to me, it's more about. Who you taking the ball away from? None of these guys are good without the basketball.
It's going to be RJ. Who else is going to
get he'll be the one that's out. You just committed money to him.
Yeah.
He's 22 years old. I sent the stat before. Since December, he's averaging I think 24 points per game, and he's shooting 46%. His 3-points about 38, which is respectable for him.
Yeah, big time.
Like he's been fantastic. And for some reason, he's the guy that always gets the crap.
Yeah, he gets it all. I mean, when you hear the other outlets, they talk about art. I don't know if it's orchestrated by design, but even you hear the broadcast like, "Oh, RJ has to own this second unit." And I'm like, well, he was just owning the first unit. The reason you were in the Toronto game, are we really nitpicking to the point where we're saying we want RJ to ball out with the starters? And we also want him to lead the second unit. I mean, what is going on with that? If anything, you think you would want to find a bench player like Quickly. Quickly should be the one leading the second unit. If you're going to say about someone leading the second
Obi,
unit,
if they played him,
or Obi, but why would you
minutes.
all of a sudden give that job to RJ also? Oh, go ball out and get 25. But we also expect you to command the second unit and stomp a mud hole in their second unit. The 2 guys that are starting offensive, Brunson and Julius, but they have not dominated the starting lineup enough to the point where they are outplaying everyone else's starters to the point that you can rest them. They've come back. Teams have come back in games against us all year long. So they're not killing it enough that you ask RJ to go kill the second unit. They need him in the first unit to even become respectful and maybe win games. So I don't like that dynamic. I mean, I think Levine. I've always been a fan of Levine, but like I said, the perception of what this office thinks of how they view Julius, and then
Yes.
for me, his contract is ridiculous. I think most of the NBA contracts, not just his, but given his age, given the condition of his knees, and then he would come here and probably take RJ shots, is why I wouldn't endorse him. Like, I'm more for, if you're going to trade Rose, get Elmer Fudd. I'm a fan of Elmer Fudd.
Well,
I think you get Elmer Fudd, and then you see if there's somebody else there that you can throw in the bag that may get Derrick Rose, and that you get Elmer Fudd here, and his contract. I don't think he's a free agent yet, so I would think now that would make more sense to bring Elmer Fudd here because he's a Tom type. He's defense first. He can do a little scoring. That would be the kind of guard I'd want coming off our bench if we can get that. Imagine him and Grimes. If you could take Grimes out of the front, say you took Grimes out of the starting lineup, if you were able to replace him, could you imagine him and Elmer Fudd in the second unit? The kind of defense you would play?
Yeah.
Come on. That'd be nasty. That'd be a nasty second unit.
Yeah.
And Elmer Fudd's athletic. Don't get it twisted with that headband. That dude is a leaper. Don't go.
I think I'd be a little bit more inclined for Levine as well if we didn't sign Brunson. Because then you could kind of play him as your point guard and get away with that.
I agree. Yep. I agree.
But because we did,
yeah,
it's kind of like, and again, you're right in a lot of ways, Craig. He's what they need. He's a much more dynamic player. He would get them running up and down the court. Like, as a player profile, yes, he's kind of a guy you would say, yes, we need more guys like him. But I mean, because of like the contract and like I said, the health of his knees, I have no idea, what's going on in his knee. I don't know. And we got burned with your friend Allen Houston with his knee. So
Whoa.
So I just have it's very, very sore spot in my mind when it comes to the
yeah. No, I
just think it's the wrong time.
No, it is. The money is the sticking point for me. I would love his shooting and his ability to just get a basket whenever
Make
he
plays,
wants to. But other than that, I mean, I'm like 60-40 on it. But the contract is the reason why I'm like, it's too much money. And they'll be hamstrung for the foreseeable future. So you need to make those. If you're going to nip and tuck like they do, maybe you nip and tuck for a Jared Allen or Alex Caruso. Like, those are the moves you make. But it can't be another thing where you go back and get Reggie Bullock, like that was one of the rumors. Like, you can't do that. Like, you can't make those type of trades again.
That's the most ridiculous thing.
You have to make trade for a player who's going to make you better. And even if he's not an athletic bucket getter, like a Levine is, at least Jared Allen can get you a bucket if he needs to. He can hit an open shot. He'll play defense. So he'll make the Knicks a better team. That's what they need to do. They keep thinking, oh, we're okay. We're doing pretty well. Whoa. Shut up and go trade for somebody that's going to help you.
Well, there has been another player who I think we'd all hate to see traded, but we'd understand it. Obi Toppin has been mentioned in deals that possibly with the Pacers.
Yeah.
There's no specific player talk that I heard, like who they would go get as part of this deal.
I did hear one name come up.
Who was that?
Duarte.
Okay. You know what? That would make sense. Getting someone like Duarte would make sense. Definitely, again, we're talking about needing shooters. That's what he is. He's a good scorer. So it would make sense, something like that. I wouldn't do that. Again, as we all know,
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, the forward that we all want traded is Randall. But it is weird. Someone was on Twitter today. They were talking about Randall's game last night, like, oh, blah blah blah, this other stuff. And I just responded, I'm like, great. Now it's time to trade him. Like,
value's no high. You can't get it no higher than what it is.
Yeah, that's always my comment about him.
I do wonder sometimes. I mean, and it sounds like we're crapping on the dude because I mean he's having a hell of a year.
His numbers are better than his All NBA season. He's having better numbers this year than he did 2 years ago. He's
having a hell of a year, and I think the thing that when looking at how great he's been and looking at our record is why I'm impressed as an individual, but I'm not impressed as a collective because I'm like, if this is his greatest effort, and this is probably his greatest, this is probably going to be hands down his greatest season ever, and you're barely hitting over 500 with your best player balling, then he's not the dude.
25.
That's the whole thing. It's like you're watching someone have a statistical, explosion that when you look across the board, you're like Julius, also. And then, but you're like looking at the team, and the team success is like from last year still. Like you're only a few games over 500 with a guy who's having maybe an MVP season. If it was another guy's having greater seasons, if this was another year ago, he's probably an MVP conversation.
25,
like,
11, and 4. Those are his numbers right now.
Those are phenomenal, and he's shooting high from 3-point range. What is he shooting? Like almost 40% from 3-point
Well, he's
range?
only 35, but it's
he's 35 now. Okay,
it's been better recently.
Okay, so he's back down to earth from that. So, but I'm just saying those numbers across the board is an all-star number, and he's your best player. Say he's your best player. If you want to say that, and you look at where your team is, and your second best player, if you want to say, is Brunson, is having
22.
a phenomenal season too, and you're still barely over 500. That is a telling sign about the talent that you have. That they're clearly not the dudes to get you to the level that you want to do, which is a championship. Because if so, by adding a guy like Brunson, would be the Batman or the Robin, whichever you want to say, you saying that you have two comic book heroes right now on the squad, and and then RJ is like the Titan, the Teen Titans coming in under training. So you're saying you got these three dudes, and your record is like you're playing for the play-in. You're in a play-in, basically.
Like we said. The like we said a couple weeks ago, the ceiling is the 6th seed, right? Like that's probably the highest they're going to be able to get.
You trade that. You trade that. You don't keep that. You trade that.
Right, especially since they did keep RJ and they invested in him going forward, because we've talked about how they're very similar and they're repetitive kind of players. So I've said this to you guys in the chat. I have no doubt that if they moved on from Randall, Barrett could give them similar production, at least scoring wise. Oh yeah, probably not rebounding. That's probably what they'd miss him the most. But scoring wise, I think he definitely could pick it up and give them that. So
he averages 27 if Julius is not on his team. I don't think.
I would think 26.
I don't even think it's going to be hard for him to average 27.
Well, he's averaging 22 now. I mean,
20.2.
Take out his first month because he always sucks in the first month, and he's averaging about 22, 23 now.
Yeah.
Right? So you figure with more shot attempts, he'd probably be up a little higher.
His assist goes up too. Because
he'll have the ball a little more.
He'll find more targets than Julius would find, or Brunson.
So I think like you made that investment, and I do think in a quiet moment, if you asked the Knicks, they would feel how we felt about where they gave him the contract.
Yeah.
Like I think they're okay with it. Obviously, they've made peace with it, but they probably feel the same way. Like they should have waited to give him that deal and see what would happen. But I mean, like you said, his value is never going to be higher than it is right now. He's completely almost reversed the feelings people have had of him last year. Mm-hmm. I've heard people say that there is a market for him. I even believe that we recently heard that Phoenix is looking to move past the Chris Paul era, and I believe Randall's name was brought up in that conversation. Mm-hmm. So
I would do that in a heartbeat too.
I don't know who the trade would be for. Like I have no idea.
I thought you meant like it was Chris Paul and some deal for Randall.
No, I think they're sticking with Paul, right? Like they want to keep him for now, but they're looking past when he's leaving. Like they're looking past his tenure there. Like what are they gonna do after the fact? Because they signed Ayton, they signed Booker, they have lots of guys tied up. So now they're thinking about what they're gonna do past that point. And Randall's name came up, and we talked about even when the Crowder stuff was mentioned. I remember we were kicking together deals like, okay, how can we make this work, make this happen? So I think that would be something they should explore. But again, it just goes back to like you said, Ty. They're over 500. They're competitive, and in the Knicks brass mind, they're saying if we move on from him now, we might not make the playoffs. That whole thing might fall apart. they're not thinking the way we're thinking of sustained excellence past this year. They're thinking come end of April, early May, we want to have games at the Garden still, people playing, talking about us, even if it's a first round exit.
Yeah, which is like that's negligent. I just think that. I'm calling if Phoenix really wanted Randall. I'm asking for maybe Cam Johnson and some picks, or I'm asking for Mikal Bridges and some picks, and see if that can. I think Mikal would fit great on this team.
Well,
He
yeah,
instantly makes you better. Instantly, because you have that dynamic with him and Brunson. They play together.
They play together in Villa, and now you would bring him to play off of RJ. He doesn't need the ball. He's not demanding the ball. Classic glue player. You know, if you can add maybe because Phoenix has all their picks from what I understand also. So you're kind of swapping out that. I know they love Mikal Bridges. Why would they not? But I'm saying if you're moving on, you got to give to get. If you think Randall could be the difference in helping a guy like Chris Paul and a guy like Devin Booker still have their championship window open, ajar enough, Randall can be that catalyst when he gets locked in and scores, and he would have to with Chris Paul as the point guard. You're taking it out of his hand and you're making him a finisher. That's a dynamic that you would want probably in Phoenix. And you'd have Ayton to be able to play defense. If you add Julius Randle, Ayton, Booker, and Paul, you got some legitimate you got some stank you can be putting on the East Western Conference as far as being very competitive.
Yeah, it would have to, obviously for salary reasons, they would probably have to take Crowder as part of the trade.
I'll take him.
I take it in a heartbeat. I
will take him.
Just for the long-term success. I just don't think
you need players like that.
Let me throw a trade at you, a trade possibility. And I'm pretty sure this will work. Yeah, it should work. All right, so what if I just checked it. Hold on, let me check the trade. It works. Okay, so I said Randall going to Phoenix for Crowder, Saric, and Cam Johnson. And again, that's just trade without picks, and I'm sure picks would be involved, but going both ways. I don't know, but that to me is a realistic attempt at a trade, right? Like they might come back and say, "Well, we don't want to give you Cam, but Knicks might not want Cam. They might want picks instead," which is fine. I don't care. Do what you have to do there. Or they don't want to give up Cam. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Give me the 2 expiring deals because all 3 of them are expiring trades, expiring deals. Yeah, so it'd be an easy way to get them out of here. Get them out of there and guys they don't have to re-sign. They don't want to keep Crowder anyway. Cam Johnson they're probably going to want to keep and extend. So there's going to be something going on there. But like those kinds of deals, I think is what they should explore. Especially if they're looking past Chris Paul's time. I think that's something they should explore. So just something to throw out there.
I would definitely. Like I said, it's less about Julius and it's more about do you want to win a championship? Because as constituted, this is a first round exit waiting to happen. There's no team if you're playing anywhere between 6th and the 8th seed, you can just go camping because you know what? You're not beating Boston. You're not beating Milwaukee. And you're probably not – who's in 3rd? Is it Brooklyn or is it Philly?
Well,
Philly just won. So I think they're 2nd right now. So I don't know who 3rd is.
I think right now they're probably – because Brooklyn still doesn't have KD back. So
they might be in the 4th and 5th seed.
Yeah, they're 4th. Yeah, they lost tonight to the Philly. So
yep.
Oh yeah. So they're down the totem because it's because of KD, and he might be out longer from what I'm hearing also. So, so say the top 3 is Philly, Boston, and Milwaukee. Knicks aren't beating any of those teams. Who are they going to beat out of that?
They're probably not beating New Jersey. They're New Jersey. They're probably not beating Brooklyn either.
You got it right, but they're not beating them either.
But they're probably not beating them either.
If Kevin Durant is healthy, they're definitely not beating. Yeah. You're not beating them. So now you're in between a dog fight of Toronto, who you can't beat either. You
Right.
haven't proven to beat them. I think Washington is not in the picture yet. They might be. Then you got a team like Indiana. I think they're slipping a little bit too.
24 and 26. They just lost. They got lost by 26 to Indiana tonight. I mean to Orlando. Excuse me.
They lost by 6 to Orlando.
It was 6. It was 26.
And Orlando's.
Wow, I need glasses.
Boston should hope that Orlando never gets into the playoffs. The way Orlando just owns Boston, it's just one of the craziest things.
It is crazy.
It's a crazy thing. But Orlando, I don't know if how far they're out of the hunt, but that's another team that the Knicks. If the Knicks got to play some of these guys, some of these teams, and the only team that we can really kind of pencil in, knowing we're going to beat is Detroit. That's the one team we play Detroit. Yeah, what are they going to do against? I mean, granted, they've beaten Cleveland twice.
They can beat. They think they could beat Cleveland. I think they could beat Miami if they played Miami.
Yeah.
In the first round, but those teams aren't Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philly, or Boston. Like those 4 are the teams that probably will destroy the Knicks in the first round matchup, and more than likely that's who they'd be playing.
Yeah, because they would have to get in the top 4,
right,
to even dictate their maybe have a possibility of moving to a second round, because you would be playing, like you said, those teams, and then Atlanta's somewhere in there. They're not. Do the Knicks really want to play DeJounte Murray and the Atlanta Ets? Because that's what's been every time that dude talking about the gooch. And that's a little too old for maybe Craig, but the gooch that comes in is DeJounte Murray. Every time that gooch comes in from Atlanta,
it's true, man.
He just intimidates the Knicks.
And he's like 120 pounds soaking wet. Like, what are you afraid of? This dude.
He's like. But there's something about that dude. He comes in, he's just disrespectful all around. And the Knicks are like, okay. They have no resistance to him at all. So, do the Knicks want to play Atlanta? I wouldn't.
No. I mean,
they're getting swept.
Whatever. The crazy thing is when it comes, I think Atlanta is still in their heads. And because it doesn't matter what kind of lead they have, they can't hold it against them.
They can't hold it.
I really do think they're in their head.
I agree.
And I even think McMillan is in Tibbs' head.
I was about to say the same thing. I think McMillan knows Tibbs. Because let me tell you, if the playoffs come down to coaching, we're done. We are done. You can forget it. If it comes down to coaching, which the playoffs do, it comes down to adjustments and adaptability, and being able to take away team strength and coaches knowing how to. We have arguably, and it sounds blasphemy to say this because he is coach of the year twice. We have arguably the worst X&O coach in the league. You tell me someone who's worse than that dude. You tell me somebody who's worse than him. Who's that?
Brett Brown, but he's an assistant, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, he was terrible. But think about all the current coaches. Is there one coach that
Rivers
that you would take over Thibs? I mean, Thibs over right now
from the same tree.
Doc Rivers is pretty bad.
Doc's
been overvalued in my opinion. Yeah. But you look at them like, which coach do you feel like? Oh, I know Tom coming into this, he's going to have the advantage. I don't know a coach you could say that about.
I really can't think of one.
And Doc outcoaches him too, which is not good.
Maybe Vaughn. Like I'm just throwing it out there.
But I think Jacques Vaughn can outcoach too.
I think I think Vaughn's a good coach. I just in the playoffs he hasn't been there as a head coach. I don't believe.
Maybe
that might be something that throws him.
It's a short list. You might get one or two. You might take Thibs over. That dude is. I'm just saying. I've watched him make no moves for 3 years. There's been no pivot other than shortening a rotation. That's his only thing that he's gone.
You're right. X's and O's. Yes, he hasn't really done.
He's done.
Again, it's my way or we're done.
Like I said, he watches all that film. I always say he watches it in Braille because he can't be watching it with there's no way in HE double hockey stick that
you can say hell. That's fine.
Oh hell! In his salacious ways, can he sit there and say he watches film and he makes no adjustment? He can play the same opponent and do the same thing. It's like, oh, let's whip out that old rusty book that I had. He blows the dust off of it, and it's the same damn result.
It's
Each
basically
and every
praying.
time. Right. What you said,
It's
pray?
basically akin to praying, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, here's our game plan, and let's pray it works.
Let's pray it works. Because
That's what it comes down to.
Julius Randle having a great season. And I kind of feel bad for him in this regard. I'm going to tell you why. The Atlanta series 2 years ago, he had that guy coaching him. They went to that play where he was operating on the wing. And it's like, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, he hasn't played the wing all year like that. It's like he operates better from the top of the key. And he's driving the ball. It's like, are you going to put this guy on the wing? And he has a hard time seeing the floor. It's not knocking him. Everybody has limitations. I got him. Everybody got him. But it's like he can't see the floor. But Tibbs implored that he stay on the wing and continue to operate after he got picked once, he got picked twice, he got blindsided 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10 times in a row. And he kept running the same play.
Right.
It's not going to work this time. The
only thing that they did, and I still don't think it was his call to do this, was the one game they won.
Yeah.
They started moving him early. So instead of him sitting there catching the ball, I remember they would get him, they kind of lead him into a move right away so he wouldn't be standing there and they couldn't come double him.
Yeah. Did we freeze?
Yeah, he's frozen.
Yeah. Mr. Freeze.
He gone.
He gone.
Looks like he's actually, like, I'm not going to say it. Looks like a corpse right now. Oh my God. It's creeping me out, man. All right. This is awkward.
Are we back?
Yeah,
we're back.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, I know I froze. I looked at my internet. My signal was like, okay, it went down for a bit. But we're back. Sorry about that.
No problem.
But yeah, I mean we could Randall. I feel like it always comes back to
we gotta move past this guy. He's like a bad breakup, man. We can't.
I mean, he's such a big part of the team. It's hard to. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of news that came out just today that I wanted to get into a little bit, and I'm talking about the news that Warriors GM Bob Myers might become available during the summer after the season, and the Knicks apparently are one of the teams that are looking. Now, this is interesting for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
One, I didn't know the Knicks were looking for someone either in a GM or this kind of a role. So that's interesting. That was interesting to hear because obviously the guys who are reporting have sources, and the sources tell them, that the Knicks are available. The second part is we found out that Leon Rose is either first or second highest paid, or top 4 or something like that.
What?
Yes, top 4 highest paid executives in the NBA.
Yeah, I saw that. Saw that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another bit of information we found out from this article.
Stop the lies.
I'm not lying.
I mean, why wouldn't Dolan throw the paycheck at him? And that's the one thing Alan used to always say. There's no cap on front office and executives.
You're right.
They're out there to spend the money. So I don't give a crap that he's one of the highest paid.
I agree, but the thing that I'm looking at, he had no experience.
Well, neither did Bob Myers. Right?
Yeah, but
Bob
he
Myers
has a resume. I'm saying, like, why not go hire Jerry West if you're going to overspend for someone?
Jerry West is like 170 years old, man.
Or even throw the book at R.C. Buford. Give him half the franchise. I'm just saying.
What you didn't give Pat Riley?
Yeah, I mean, do what they didn't. I mean, R.C. Buford, or even
your lessons.
What is the dude? Presti. Give Presti.
That's the dude, man. If they could get Presti,
money,
that's the guy I would want. Like, he's the guy I've always wanted. For years, I've said,
definitely want him.
Get Presti. I don't know if Presti wants to come to New York and be in the powder keg. You kind of have this nice little cush job in OKC, and you're just chilling, and you always get draft picks, and you're kind of just have this method.
Depends on how much you pay for that keg.
I know, well, that's the thing. You're right. If they're going to pay it, but
I'd overpay for him.
But again, this was it was a very interesting article to come out around this time as well,
Yeah.
when we always talk about it, and now even media is talking about it, how the Knicks are kind of just in no man's land,
Mhm.
and they've paid three guys $100 million contracts, and they're all good to very good players, but none of them are technically stars. So, and then you hear this kind of information. And again, the Knicks weren't the only team mentioned in this mix. Washington was mentioned, Phoenix was mentioned, and the Clippers were also mentioned. The Clippers, if it were me, that's the team I would watch out for, because Steve Ballmer's the richest man in the country, in the world, whatever, and he could give him whatever he wanted. So that's the team I would think, and they're going to have a lot of decisions to make going forward with Kawhi and Paul George, and how they're going to do that. How the fall from that's going to happen. But
this does sound like a little bit of a. I don't want to say. I mean, it seems like a worldwide West move. It would be to actually connect this guy to this job, because I think it'd be very shocking that the Knicks are now looking at this team and not saying, I mean, as an owner or whatever, to look at this and say, under this regime, Leon Rose is probably not going to fire Tom Thibodeau. He's probably not.
Like I said,
So they're attached. Literally.
Yeah, but again, self-preservation comes into it at this point, at some point as well.
Yeah.
Like if the Knicks bottomed out, say they bottomed out the rest of the year, and they didn't, I'm not gonna say they didn't win another game, but they won like 10 games the rest of the season. They would, I think, Rose would have to fire him to keep his own job.
But maybe
right?
he don't want the job. I never thought he wanted it anyway.
Well, that's different. I mean, if he doesn't want the job, then that's a totally different story. And then maybe this news being leaked today makes a little more sense. Like if Rose is putting it out there, like, yeah, I don't know if I want to stick around doing this. Maybe that's why the Knicks are looking into someone like Myers for the president position. It would be a promotion for him because he's the GM now, so he'd be promoted to team president, and then it would be different. Obviously, it'd be a different role for him in a bigger city, bigger market, tackling a team that hasn't won in 50 years now. This year, it's 50 years since they've won.
I just think Rose and Tibbs are literally the Winter Soldier and Captain America. The friendship goes back so far that no matter what the Winter Soldier did, what Cap says, I'm rolling with my dog. I'm hanging out. I just think that Rose won't fire Tibbs. I think he would rather resign and leave with Tibbs. I just think
unless Dolan says you have to fire him. It's either you.
I think he'll leave. I think Leon will leave. I think
that would be the dumbest thing a person could.
I think Leon's loyalty has been to Tibbs more so than Dolan. I think he will.
I mean, yeah, he kind of spearheaded them hiring him, right? Like he was kind of his call, and he was like, "Yeah, let's bring him in."
Because Dolan doesn't like Tibbs, from what I understand. That's been noted. He has never been a fan of Tom, and he told Leon he could fire him last year.
Yes,
and Leon didn't go through with it. So I'm just saying, I think they might be attached to the hip. That you might be seeing, we ride together, we die together, like they're making Bad Boys 4. I mean, maybe that's what we're seeing here. And Bob Myers' name come up. It does sound like a William Wesley move. Like, I got to connect. He got to plug up, and this time he's a plug. So he already backdoored. No pun intended, but he did backdoor Leon Rose with Dolan. So
yeah, he did. He heard that.
So we're seeing maybe someone say, "I know someone who knows someone who wants to be interested in the job." Because literally, Bob Myers, I think, is the reason why. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's why Leon Rose got the job. Because he was an agent also, I believe, Bob Myers.
Yes, he was.
And what Dolan was trying to do was replicate what the Warriors did by hiring an agent. Of course, Pelinka also was hired by the Lakers. So it was like this big trend. But Bob Myers initially was the guy that spawned the whole agent trend, and then bringing in them as GMs and letting them orchestrate. And clearly they've been very successful in Golden State. Pelinka has been successful. I mean, bubblicious in Lakerland, La La Land. But where we're sitting now with Leon Rose, who's been he's been the agent right now out of all the super agents, so to say. if you had to look at the totality of this experiment, it's been failure. When you think about what they've been doing, he had to. Anytime you got to reset by giving up assets to reset because you made poor decisions on your free agency, and you're not resulting in any championship and in any playoff. You had one playoff that was in the bubble, and you're struggling now to maybe even get in one.
That like we said, that that bubble year not only ruined was fake for the bubblicious for the Lakers. It was maybe Hubba Bubba for the Knicks because because of that. That's the season that changed everything. I think
it screwed this franchise up.
Yeah, that's the season that changed everything because the Knicks were clearly looking at that point before that season to move on from Randall. That's why they drafted Toppin. They were clearly not going to keep him, and that season changed everything. So I just think this is very interesting news.
Yes,
at this time of the year.
Welcoming news for me. I hope.
Yep. And I would, I mean, this is kind of a thing that you look at and you say, well, he's coming from one of the most successful franchises in the NBA. That's the kind of move the Knicks should try and make. Like when Checkets went all out to get Pat Riley.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like he was like, no, I want Pat Riley. If you read Chris Herring's book, Blood in the Garden too, it goes into depth onto how that happened and just how he kind of chased them, and he got him to come here. But I'll tell you the thing. The caveat was that they had to keep Ewing. And if you remember at that time, just with a little bit of insight, remember at that time, Ewing had that clause in his contract that he could become a free agent if he wasn't one of the top 4 paid players,
yeah, in
the NBA. And he exercised that. So Riley was like, I'm only coming to coach the team if Ewing stays. And then the rest is history. He had the lunch with Patrick, and Patrick was like, well, I've had how many coaches here? What are you going to do for me?
What are you going to do for me?
Mm-hmm. He's like, the only thing I could give you is my credibility that I've won championships before. And, and Riley said to him, I am going to build a team that fits your style of basketball. And the rest is history, right? That's what we got.
And he did exactly that. He did exactly that.
Right. So that's why, if you're going to do something like this, make a power move. Yeah. If you're going to get rid of the current establishment, go with a guy who has success. Myers obviously has success at Golden State. Yes, it helps to have Steph Curry. But yes, I mean, he's been successful there, and it would just give the whole organization and fan base an injection of excitement. And it would take away, like you said, the connection that Rose has because of his CAA connections. It would take away that element of things.
Do you smell? Do you smell Kenny? I can.
Oh, I don't.
No, he
wasn't assistant. He wasn't
assistant on Golden State.
I know he is. So I don't want to jump the gun. This probably won't happen, but I wanted to talk about it because it was literally the latest news that we got today. All right. I think we're at the end. I think we're done discussing all the things I had on the agenda.
All right.
So unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about, we can shut this show down. So, Craig, Ty, you guys something you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Throw it up to the young buck over there.
Craig, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Trays_Sun28. You can also find me on Facebook. You can find me on the All Knicked Up page on Facebook as well, and on Twitter and all that good stuff. And that's all I got. I'll take some melatonin soon. Hopefully I can get some good sleep. Worked the wonders last night, so we'll see what it does tonight.
Nice.
All right, Ty, you're up.
You can find me at Genius Scribble on Twitter. You could also find me on the Knick fan page, All Knicked Up fan page, writing some articles. Come check us out, interact with us, bring some smoke. You know how we do.
Yeah. So I recently shared a story of that. We just passed the anniversary of Carmelo Anthony's 62-point game that I was there for at the Garden. So that's something that I just posted on the Facebook page. You guys want to talk, ask me questions about it. It was a crazy night. It's still something that I'll never forget. It's the greatest sporting event I've ever been to live. Watching a guy just so great at what he does, being great at it that night.
It's a
something
sin
I'll
he's
never.
still out on the team, and especially the Knicks. It's a sin. Somebody should be. It's malpractice. I'll shut up there.
All right, Craig, we're gonna get you in touch with his agent. You could be his spokesperson. We can get you pushing the pushing it up the hill for Bello to get on. I agree with you. He's probably still good enough to go play somewhere. So we'll see what happens there. But if you guys want to talk to me on Twitter, you see down here at finally 33, spell finale 33 is my personal handle. You can hit me up there. Then you can go to the at all_Nick_up for the show. You can also watch this episode of the show on Twitter. So if you guys are ever just passing through and you're on your Twitter account, and you see it pop up, you can stay there and watch the show there as well. It does feed to the Twitter account. If you guys are fans of superheroes and movies and pop culture, you can catch my show Straight Outta Gotham. It's at straight_O_G on Twitter. That's the show handle. Check us out. You can find us anywhere you podcast. Anywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Find us all over the place and check us out over there. I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else to say this week. So we will be back next week, most likely. Again, if there's a game, we'll be on immediately after the game. If there's not a game, we come on every week at 9:00, and you can come party with us then, have a good time and all that fun stuff, because that's why we do this. Yes, we do this as therapy for you guys, but also to have a little fun, hopefully entertain you for an hour and a half or so. So for Craig and Ty, I'm Eric. You're watching All Nicked Up, and we will see you next week.